Hello everyone. There are several amendments, but we will just look into some very important amendments which had a very high impact upon the working of our Constitution. Within 1 year of the commencement of the Constitution, there were certain changes made, as after the coming into the force of the Constitution, there were several laws made for the purpose of land reforms, and then to make them enforceable, it was imperative that we had an amendment made to the Constitution. That was in 1951. Now, what are the things which are made under this particular Amendment Act? First of all, there were certain restrictions which were added to the freedom of speech and expression. Under Article 19 subclause 1, we have the fundamental freedom of speech and expression guaranteed to the citizens of India, but there are certain reasonable restrictions on the ground of which the state can make laws in order to restrict these rights, and these restrictions are for the purpose of guaranteeing that the freedom of speech and expression is not misused. The restrictions were made on 3 grounds which were added, that is public order, friendly relations with the foreign states, and incitement to an offence. So, after this amendment, on the ground of public order or on the ground of our speech or expression being violative of or being injuring the friendly relations with the foreign states or incitement to an offence, on these 3 grounds it could be restricted. Earlier we had 5 grounds, now we have 8 grounds, that is restrictions to the freedom of speech and expression, which was guaranteed under Article 19 subclause 1. Second amendment which was done in the Constitution through the same Amendment Act, that is the fundamental right of property was guaranteed earlier in part 3. It was guaranteed under Article 31, and in order to give effect to agrarian reforms and legislations which were objected to by a lot of people, so fundamental right to property had to be curtailed, and it was to be immunized against the court attack, particularly acquisition of property and payment of compensation which was enacted by the state. That is, if the fundamental right to property has to be curtailed, or if a person's property has to be acquired for public purpose, then a payment of compensation should be done to that person who is a property owner. This was enacted by the First Amendment to immunize this particular amendment against the court attack. So, that means it should not be questioned before the courts. 31A and 31B were added, and they added a 9th schedule. In the 9th schedule, whichever act was to be put in the 9th schedule, it could not be questioned by the courts. So, that was the amendment which was called as a drastic amendment, and it was questioned by a lot of people. This was made so that the zamindari system could be abolished, and if they abolish the zamindari system, the zamindar should not be able to contest this on the ground of right to property. And so, if that law was questioned on the ground of being unconstitutional, then 9th schedule came to the rescue, that if that particular law was put in the 9th schedule, then the 9th schedule could make it immune from the jurisdiction of the courts. That is, no court could be able to question the validity of that law on the ground that it violates the fundamental rights, or again, if there is a directive principle and a fundamental rights, then the priority of directive principles over the fundamental rights in certain cases was also guaranteed by putting 31B. So, 31A, 31B and 9th schedule were added by the First Amendment. Next important amendment is in 1971, that is the 24th Amendment Act. This was also a very controversial amendment. In this amendment, Article 13 was amended and Article 368 were amended. 368 is the power of amending the Constitution itself. Article 13 speaks about the power of the state to make any law which curtails or takes away or abridges the fundamental rights. Here, the amendment stated that if there was a constitution amendment bill, then the president, earlier the president had an option. He may assent to the constitution amendment bill. Here the words may was removed, and the president is now bound to assent to a constitution amendment bill. And the doubts relating to the power of the parliament to amend the constitution, because there came certain cases where there came a question before the court. The court said that the parliament does not have a power to amend, but only as the marginal note to article 368 states that procedure to amend the constitution. So when the procedure to amend the constitution is there, there is no power. That was stated in certain cases wherein it was felt that it is a necessity to amend article 368 marginal note, in which they removed that particular provision and they put in power, procedure and power to amend the constitution. This was amended by this particular amendment. Next came the 31st Amendment Act of 1973. In this act, again, the representation of states in the Lok Sabha and the representation of the union territories in the Lok Sabha was amended. The upper limit, which was 525 in the case of the Lok Sabha for the representation of states, that was increased from 525 to 545 members. So we have 545 as the upper limit in the Lok Sabha at present. Then the upper limit for representation of union territories was decreased from 25 members to 20 members. This was under the 31st Amendment. Then came the 42nd Amendment Act of 1976. This is called as a mini constitution. It is a very important amendment which was enacted during the time of the emergency. In 1975 there was an emergency and there was a need to change certain provisions because they were questioned on the grounds of the constitutional validity of those provisions or of those laws. So this amendment was effected in order to give effect to the recommendations made by the Swarna Singh committee appointed by the Congress party. And here what are the important things which were changed in the constitution is, first of all, the preamble, which stated that we the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign socialist republic. So they added two words, socialist and secular. So it is sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. So that India's characteristics as a socialism and secularism should be put in the preamble itself as one of its objectives. That was one amendment. The next thing was that in the preamble itself, it is said that assuring the unity of the nation. There integrity was added. So it is assuring the unity and the integrity of the nation, so that the indivisibility or integrity of the nation should be emphasized in the preamble. So these two things were made in the preamble, number one. Secondly, again under article 103, earlier before this amendment, the question whether a member of parliament has been subject to disqualification or not was to be decided by the president, and the president could get the opinion of the election commission. With the opinion of the election commission, the president could decide whether a member of parliament is to be disqualified or not. This was changed after this 42nd amendment. The president, when he decides the question, he should also obtain the opinion of the Council of Ministers along with the election commission. This was inserted after the 42nd amendment. It also amended article 74. In article 74, the president's powers, that is, they were curtailed as to state that the president should act in accordance with the advice of the Council of Ministers in the discharge of his functions. So the president's powers were curtailed, he is bound by the advice of the Council of Ministers. That was stated. It should be noted that this particular provision does not make an impact on the powers of the state governor, because there was no such amendment. In this 42nd amendment, they have not changed the provisions relating to the state governor. So when we compare both the powers, the governor has certain discretionary functions. He is not bound to act upon ministerial advice while exercising the power under article 356. For example, when there is a breakdown of our constitutional machinery in the state, the governor need not be bound by the Council of Ministers advice, because he can directly recommend to the president that presidential rule should be imposed on the state. So this is a variation. Whereas President's powers have been curtailed by this amendment, the Governor's powers are left intact. Then another thing which happened by this 42nd amendment is it curtailed the power of the judiciary also. Here, before the 42nd amendment, the Supreme Court and the High Courts, they could entertain the question whether the central or state legislations are constitutionally valid or not. There was no differentiation, there was no difference between their powers. But then they added Article 32A. Here, the central law only would be exclusively looked into by the Supreme Court, and the state law would be looked into by the High Court. So, the constitutional validity of the central law would be entertained by the Supreme Court, and the constitutional validity of the state law would be entertained by the High Court. This amendment has provided for that. But later on, Article 32A was repealed by the 43rd Amendment Act, and the previous provision prevails, that is, now the Supreme Court has a power to decide relating to state laws and the central law both. Next thing which happened in the same Amendment Act is the center and state relations. Relating to that, there are, as we know, there are three lists: state list, union list and concurrent list. Forest, protection of wild animals and birds, and weights and measures, these were earlier in the state list. They were removed from the state list and they were placed in the concurrent list. So, in order to make laws, the center and the state both have power in relation to these particular subjects. Then there were provisions of emergency which were amended. Before the 42nd amendment, the President could declare emergency under Article 352 throughout the country, not only in a part of the country. But after this amendment, the provision was rectified. Now the President can declare emergency throughout the country or any part of the country. So that power was modified. Then before this amendment, the emergency could be declared under Article 356, wherein approval of the Parliament is needed at the end of every 6 months if you have to prolong the emergency. But now this time is extended to 1 year. So 1 year, if the emergency goes on till 1 year, then it needs the Parliament's approval. Next is the effects on fundamental rights. Article 31C was inserted. As we know, Article 31B and 31A was inserted earlier by the first amendment. Now Article 31C was inserted to give importance to the directive principles, where the directive principles of state policy and the fundamental rights are vis-a-vis each other. Then the primacy or the priority is given to the directive principles of state policy under this amendment, and any law giving effect to any of the directive principles of state policy, even if that is violative of Article 14 and 19, it could not be declared as void or unconstitutional. This was the 42nd amendment again. Then a new article was inserted in the directive principles, that is Article 39A, 43A and 48A. These three articles were inserted to Part 4 of the Constitution. The fundamental duties was not part of our Constitution, but under the 42nd Amendment Act, a new Part 4A was added, which contains one article, that is 51A, which has A to G. Then came the 44th Amendment Act of 1978, which is again a very important act. Under this act, the outstanding feature is, first of all, many drastic provisions which were affected by the 42nd Amendment at the time of the emergency, they were repealed by the Janata government which came in power, and they passed the 43rd and 44th Amendment Act for this purpose. So, as the 42nd Amendment Act was very controversial, to remove some of its drastic provisions, this act was enacted, that is 44th Amendment Act. The basic important outstanding feature of this act is the right to property was completely removed from the fundamental rights chapter, that is Part 3, and it was inserted under Article 300A. Another new article 300A was inserted, and now right to property is not a fundamental right because it is not in Part 3, it is an ordinary legal right. The 42nd Amendment had extended the term of Lok Sabha and State Legislative Assembly from 5 years to 6 years. This was removed, and once again the amendment reduce the term to 5 years again. So now we have the term of Lok Sabha and State Legislative Assembly to 5 years. Then comes the 44th amendment, the removal of one word, internal disturbance, in Article 352. Earlier, when the national emergency was to be declared, it was declared on 3 grounds. So war, external aggression and internal disturbance. Because of this word internal disturbance being not very clear, the proclamation of emergency happened on the ground of internal disturbance in 1975. So to safeguard against the abuse of power by the governments relating to proclamation of emergency, so that is why they removed the word internal disturbance, which was one of the controversial ground which was taken earlier in 1975, and it was substituted with the words armed rebellion. Article 356 again was amended. The proclamation of emergency under Article 356 or the proclamation of presidential rule would remain in force for 6 months instead of 1 year from the date of its approval by the House of Parliament. Next, Article 359 was again amended. So again further to check on the emergency, so that under Article 359 the rights, the fundamental rights of the citizens could be suspended by the President on the ground of emergency. Now, though the President can suspend the fundamental rights, the right to life under Article 21 and the right to protection in respect of conviction under Article 20 cannot be suspended by declaring emergency. So these two rights are inviolable. These two rights, that is right to life and right to protection for in respect of conviction, Article 20 and 21 cannot be suspended by the President even during the time of emergency. This was the important feature of the 44th Amendment again. Now comes the next important act, that is the 52nd Amendment Act of 1985. In this, there was a schedule added to the Constitution, which is the 10th schedule, which laid down provisions for anti-defection law. Here, the members of the Parliament and the members of the state legislature, if they defect from their party and join some other party after the election, then the 10th schedule gives the power to the Speaker to disqualify that member from being a member of the state legislature or a member of the Parliament. This was a very important amendment brought in for the purpose of adding a new schedule to the Constitution. Then came the 61st Amendment Act of 1989, when the voting age, which was earlier 21 years to vote, that was reduced to 18 years by amending Article 326, and now any person who reaches 18 years can vote. Then there are two more amendments which are very important, 73rd Amendment Act of 1993 and 74th Amendment Act of 1993. In 73rd Amendment Act of 1993, a new Part 9 was inserted, which deals with the provisions of panchayats. This has been inserted to constitute Gram Sabhas in village or group of villages. It gives the whole functions and the duties of the Gram Sabha and the panchayats in the rural areas. Next, 74th Amendment Act, a new Part 9A was inserted, which relates to the municipalities. That was again to provide for Nagar Panchayats in areas which are in transition from a rural area to urban area. Then for smaller urban areas, municipal councils could be constituted. Then for larger urban areas, municipal corporations can be constituted. So this is a new part which has been inserted in 1993. Then comes the 77th Amendment Act of 1995. Here Article 16 was amended. Article 16 is the right of a person or of a citizen in the case of public employment not to be discriminated. There one article was added, 4A. It says that nothing in this article shall prevent the state from making a provision for reservation in matters of promotion to any class of posts in the services in favor of scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. So those scheduled castes and scheduled tribes which are not adequately represented in the opinion of the state in the state services, in their cases any class of post could be created and there could be reservation even in matters of promotion. This was after the Indira Sauni case, which had held that reservation should not be given in the matters of promotion. So to take away the effect of that particular case, 4A was inserted. 86th Amendment Act of 2002. is another important amendment, where one important thing was added, that is Article 21A. This is a new, of course, Article 21A has pronounced the right to education, which was already understood in Unnikrishna's case by the Supreme Court, that we have a fundamental right to education. And accordingly, here Article 21A gives a right to education to all children till they complete the age of 6 years, that is which was 6 years, they made it from 6 to 14 years. So, 45, Article 45 under the directive principles was also substituted. Earlier it was child care and education for all children till they complete the age of 6 years, that was changed to 6 to 14 years. Then Article 51A was amended, a new clause K, 51A is the fundamental duties, a new clause K was added to give effect to this right to education of children, which says that any person who is a parent or guardian, he should provide opportunities for education to his child or to his ward between the age of 6 and 14 years. This fundamental duty was added in the list of fundamental duties in part 4A. So, when we look into these important amendments, of course, there are other amendments, but these are the highlights, or these are the important amendments which have taken place, which brought many changes in our constitution. 1951 was the first amendment, 1971 and 1973, 1976, 42nd amendment was very controversial. So, to remove the effects again 44th amendment came in, then the later amendments also came in for particular purposes. So, we look into all these amendments, we find that our constitution is a living document, and it is showing, or it is depicting the aspirations of the people. I hope you have learned something from this video. If you have liked it, please share it with anyone who you think would be interested. Please leave your comments and I would be happy to reply to them. Do subscribe to get more information on everyday law and legal studies. Thank you.